Coming up right now on A Moment of Wisdom, karate, basketball, and a buzzer beater that broke a few hearts in Carolina.
I never imagined being in this world whatsoever. So when I was 15, my mom signed me up for my very first pageant competition. I was very much into sports and music growing up.
What sport? What sport?
Oh,
all of them?
everything,
Okay.
everything. But karate and basketball were my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, so favorite ones, but never wanted to wear makeup, never wanted to get dressed up, and my mom was like, we have to fix this. Signed up for my first competition, did not win, but ended up loving the world as a whole. And so now it's been a little bit over 17 years that I've been competing, and yeah, I'm still here.
And somewhere in there, a crown. Our next guest turned a teenage, we have to fix this moment, from her mom into an international title and a whole lot of wisdom. Let's get into it. Welcome into A Moment of Wisdom. My next guest does just about everything: pageant and runway coach, author, commissioner, and the holder of the Miss Intercontinental Colombia 2025 title. I sat down with Sasha Perea, and let me tell you, this conversation went everywhere. Take a look. I don't even know where to begin. So, DC Commissioner of Fashion, Arts, and Events, right? You were Miss Intercontinental Colombia 2025. You represented Miss DC at the Miss USA 2021. You're a judge, you're a host, you have a consulting firm, you're an author of The Model Mindset, you've been on Bravo TV, and yet you still have time to come in here and talk to me.
I had to.
I am grateful. So thank you. So let's start about your modeling career, because you've had a distinguished modeling career.
Yes.
How did that get started?
Yeah, you know, it's one of my favorite stories to tell because I never imagined being in this world whatsoever. So when I was 15, my mom signed me up for my very first pageant competition. I was very much into sports and music growing up.
What sport?
Oh,
all of them?
everything, everything. But karate and basketball were my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah, so favorite ones, but never wanted to wear makeup, never wanted to get dressed up, and my mom was like, we have to fix this. Signed up for my first competition, did not win, but ended up loving the world as a whole. And so now it's been a little bit over 17 years that I've been competing, and yeah, I'm still here.
How hard was it though when you first started? Because like you said, you started out, I don't want to wear makeup, I'm an athlete, I'm going to do all these different things. How hard was it to say, okay, now I got to transition into this whole world?
It was a challenge. It was a little bit of a challenge. I had no idea where to begin, honestly. And I also didn't realize all of the different components that go into like the modeling world and the pageant world. So it was a lot of learning curves throughout that journey, but it's an experience where I think you are continuously evolving and growing as a person, and it challenges you, and I think that's what I like the most.
All right, let's talk about 2025.
Yes.
Tell me about that experience as Miss Intercontinental Colombia.
Yeah, so I'm still currently the queen right now, which is really exciting. I never knew if I would have an opportunity to represent an entire country, but last August I was appointed to represent Colombia internationally, so I went to Egypt this past January. I lived there for about a month, competed with a bunch of amazing group of young women from across the world, over 60 countries, and I placed top 12 internationally. And so an amazing experience, immersed in the culture, had my family with me as well. And being able to represent the Colombian people as a whole has always been very special. And so to be able to do that internationally has been a dream.
All right, and you also represented as Miss DC at Miss USA in 2021. Tell me about that experience.
Also incredible. I actually competed 3 times before I won. So my third year was like my lucky year. I was able to go to Oklahoma representing the district. I was also the first Colombian to ever win the title of Miss DC USA. And so that was also an amazing experience to just connect with DC as a whole. I was really immersed with a lot of the culture here, got to work with the Colombian embassy, visited a lot of schools. My platform at the time was Women in Technology and Women in Entrepreneurship. So I spoke to a lot of young kids, and then also was able to just really like help them with their self-esteem and seeing that they have endless possibilities here.
Now you say you tried 3 times?
I did.
So you didn't win the first 2?
I did not, no.
What is that like for someone who is in this industry where you have to deal with defeat? Because you're not, more than likely, you're not going to win every single competition.
Correct.
So how do you deal with something like that?
You know, you take a moment to kind of feel the feels. It's tough. I will say the prep time a lot of times for me was about 3 to 6 months. So I am very diligently in the gym, very diligent with my meal plan, and just really preparing in all aspects of competition. So when you get to that point and you don't win, it can be hard.
Right.
But then after you have your moment, you go back and you reassess. What could I have done better? What did I excel in? And every year I saw that growth on stage and also developed more as a person as well. So I know that the year that I won was the year I was definitely the most prepared.
Feel the feels, then go back to work. I love that. Hold on to that thought. Still ahead on A Moment of Wisdom, the secret to staying rooted when everyone has an opinion, what's really inside the model mindset, and the warning signs of a modeling scam you need to know. Plus, we open the vault. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to A Moment of Wisdom. Before the break, Sasha Perea told us the year she won was the year she was most prepared. Well, now, the other side of the table. Okay, so in addition to all of those things, in addition to all the competition that you're doing, you are also a judge and a host. You judge competitions and you host a lot of different things. Is that just a natural turn? And how difficult is that when you have actually been on the stage and been through it?
It's tough because you know what it feels like to not win.
Right.
And you also know what it feels like in terms of the amount of time that girls put into it. But one of my favorite quotes is different judges, different results. It really boils down to which girl is performing the most consistently on finals night and also throughout the entire competition and really able to connect with the judges and the audience. So it is a little challenging, but I always try to give reassuring words whenever I speak to young women afterwards, because sometimes it's just not your night, but God knows, and the timing, when it's your time, it's your time.
Right.
And you know it'll work out.
And leading into that, now you do consulting.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
Is it hard doing that when you have been through all of this?
That actually has been the most rewarding, and I would say it's actually not too difficult. I love it. I love it. I work with girls as young as 3 years old, and I've worked with women who have been in their 40s competing in their very first pageant as well, and first competition. So it has been amazing to see the growth. I love pouring into them. I've had so many lessons in the industry as a whole with just mental fortitude, knowing what to do, knowing what to expect. So I really try to prepare them as best as possible. And for me, it's been fun. I can't complain.
What's the biggest challenge? In all of that experience, the biggest challenge, because I hear we all hear the stories about what modeling is like. Don't eat this, don't do that, you got to look like this, and don't walk like this. So to you, since you've been in it for a while, what is the biggest challenge that you have faced in your entire career when it comes to that?
I would have to say staying 100% rooted in who you are and knowing who you are when there are so many opinions being thrown your way. So I will say competing in Egypt this past year was the first time that I felt like there were a lot more eyes on me, which meant there were a lot more opinions, a lot of love, but also some people who were critics. And some critics or some pieces of criticism actually, things that I could actually improve on, and I took it into consideration. But that can be a bit overwhelming when you're going into something that you are so passionate about. So I would say that's the biggest challenge. However, if you have a really good community around you, you know who you are, why you're doing what you're doing, and you really stay tunnel vision focused and block out the noise, then that makes the process a little bit easier. But having people in your corner, that is key.
To block out the noise.
Yes.
All the negative noise.
Oh, yes.
You're also an author. You wrote a book called The Model Mindset. What do people get from the book when they read it?
They're going to get personal stories, challenges that I overcame within the industry, and then also a step-by-step process in terms of how they can actually get into the industry themselves. I think there were a lot of things that people, that I didn't know initially, and things that I tried to give to my students as well. So whether that is wearing the right clothing, knowing how to submit to a casting, knowing the warning signs if something is actually a valid casting, or if it's a scam. So I try to give them as many resources as possible. Then I also offer one-on-one coaching as well.
So the scam part, because we do a lot of, in the news, we do a lot of information on scams and how to avoid scams. What kind of scams are we talking about here, where people are saying, come over here and model and act, and it's completely not legit?
Yes.
And is there some money involved, or is it just?
Sometimes there's a financial component as well, where it can be labeled as a scam if you are if you have to pay to audition for something, you should be getting money on the back end, not paying up front.
Okay.
So just knowing who's reputable, also knowing how you want to brand yourself. So if someone is doing a certain style of photography that you know, that's not the way that I want to portray myself, let's be a little bit more cautious and make sure that we're safe and not going into unsafe environments.
Right. Okay. So you're also on the DC Commission of Fashion Arts and Events.
Yes.
What does that entail, and how much of your background lets you be able to excel in that area?
Yeah, so it's a 4-year term, and I'm really excited. I'm in year 2 right now. And so part of the initiative with the commission is to really help to expand the DC fashion, arts, and events community, making sure that everyone in DC has access to grant information, that they're able to network and really connect, and then also be able to expand their own businesses, or if they're interested in expanding or starting a business, we want to make sure we're giving them resources as well. So we have quarterly hearings, public hearings, where we invite the community out, and then it's been great with my background because I do feel like I've been able to connect with a lot of people in my personal life, in my personal career as well. And so being able to bring in those connections into the commission has been a blessing.
How do you have time to do all this stuff?
You know, I ask myself every day, I'm like, Sasha, are we doing too much?
Right.
But no, I've been really, really lucky with being able to prioritize. I think it's really balanced, comes down to like, what is a priority on a specific day? What are my deadlines? And just working around that. I thankfully get to work from home a lot of the time, so that makes life a lot easier. And I have an amazing support system as well, so that helps.
What's next for you? What else do you have coming down the pipe?
So I am actually launching a tech project this September. It's birthed from a personal experience when I lost my grandmother in 2021. I actually lost her 2 months after winning Miss DC, and she passed away from COVID very unexpectedly. And I realized with my family that there's a lot of gaps in the end of life care process and medical emergency process as well. So I am aiming to bridge that gap and really creating an ecosystem that invites in vendors as well as users and community to make sure that they don't have to go through those challenging moments alone.
All right. So you are from, we talked about it, from Virginia, but you are first generation born here.
Yes.
What is that experience like, especially when you're talking about your family being from Colombia? What's that like for you?
You know, I was raised to have a lot of pride in being Colombian. Out here, actually, when I grew up, I didn't really know a lot of other Colombians, just my family. So they forced me to learn how to speak Spanish when I was a young child, which I'm so thankful now. So I'm bilingual and fluent in both. But I love it. I love salsa dancing. I love the culture, the food. My parents met salsa dancing, so I like to say it's in my blood. And my grandmother, she was a huge staple in our household as well. She's actually the first person to come to the U.S. from our house, from my family. So having her raise us and really show us everything and show us what it means to be a Colombian woman, losing her was obviously very intense. But yeah, it's a great culture. I highly recommend visiting.
Wow. Is there anything that you cannot do? No, that's not a real question. Yes, I know you went to North Carolina, and that's basketball country.
Yes.
And you said you played basketball. Were you really good at basketball? When did you stop playing?
I stopped playing in high school.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But were you good in high school?
I can make some hoops. You know, I can. Yeah.
Post game, jumper. What are you, point guard? What were you?
What was I?
Multi-talented?
I was everywhere on the court. I think I was a guard. I believe I was a guard when I played. Yes.
You think you were a guard?
If I
because
remember
most guards know they want the ball and they're like, give me the ball and get out of the way. So was that you? Was that, no,
was not
that
me.
was not you.
No,
you
I did better at defense, if we're being honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I was more of a defensive player than a shooter.
All right. Did you want to do a career? You didn't want to do a career in basketball after
No.
that? No, you were good.
No, I was good.
Put this makeup on and move on with my life. All right.
Back to the glam life.
Back to the glam life. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and continued success.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Sasha Perea, the model mindset, and so much more. Thank you for this. Stay rooted, everybody. When we come back, we're digging into the vault. Sasha said the key to all of it is staying rooted in who you are and blocking out the noise, even when all eyes and opinions are on you. Now, Sasha knows the Bravo world herself. She actually coached on the Real Housewives of Potomac. So right now, we're opening the vault for someone who has lived a decade under the exact spotlight and never lost her footing, Giselle Bryant from the Real Housewives of Potomac. I am here with the legendary, the icon, Giselle Bryant. She is she's the president, the Madam President.
Madam President?
Madam President of the Housewives of Potomac. See, I just elevated you to top level.
Thank you.
You got top level security clearance.
Thank you.
I appreciate you spending time with me. You have been on this show since the beginning.
Yes.
What has this experience been like for you year to year? How has it changed from the time that you actually got on the show to where it is now? Other than the people. Some of the people have come and gone.
Yes.
But you've been consistent. So what's changed about your time on the show?
You know, it's been a decade, which is a long time. Like, you know, filming this past season, I realized we've been doing this for a while, and we do have straight up legitimate fans that rock with us, that are so excited when we come out every season. For me personally, I've grown. I feel like I've grown up. Not that I wasn't mature before the show started, but I'm more mature now in this space. In the beginning, nobody knew what we were doing. We didn't know what we were doing. We was just there and happy to be there. But now we know the expectation, and we try to exceed it.
Does it ever get to be too much?
All the time.
All the time. But you keep going.
Yes, I keep.
Why?
Well, I say if you sail through a season, it's not going to be a good season. If you don't have that moment during the season in which you want to quit, then yes, I go through that every season. There's a moment that I'm like, you know what, I'm done. But I, talk to my producers. I have a couple mentors in this space. I talk to them, and they work me through it. And I'm always obviously happy that I continue on. But that actually makes a good season because the viewers really want to see the real.
Is there a line that you will not cross? Or are there lines that have been crossed on the show where you're like,
Well, everybody knows how I felt about like actual fighting. I don't want any physical altercation amongst the women. But everything, and obviously I don't want anything as it relates to my children. Like leave my children alone. Outside of that, everything's like fair game.
But they did bring up your children. One of the cast members brought up your children in the last season.
Yeah, she's no longer with us.
But I mean, how did you resolve, other than the fact she's no longer on the show, but how did you resolve that? Is that like a point where you're like, okay, well, we're good. I don't have to ever talk to you again because you crossed the line on my side?
Yeah. I feel like we have unspoken rules for all the ladies. So if somebody on the cast is going to talk about my kids, then guess what? She's going to talk about your kids. So we kind of have to set some ground rules for everybody. I do flip a switch internally, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done with you. But do I still have to interact with you? Sure. But I'm done with you.
Because they crossed the line and started talking about your kids who didn't sign up for reality TV. But they have grown up in this space, so they're used to seeing you in your celebrity status and everything that comes along with it. Does it get old to them?
Yes. It was old to them about 7 seasons ago.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. But they are so sweet to me, and they know this is what I do. And they show up for me every time. I'm like, guys, we're gonna film today. 1 year, Wisdom, I said I'm gonna pay y'all when y'all film. Like I'm gonna give y'all like a little change. I said, figure out how much y'all want. Because that's what Robin was doing with her kids. And I felt like that made sense because they are, quote, working to a certain degree. So they said, okay, we're going to let you know after we film this scene. We're going to let you know, Mom. And the scene was over, and it was a long, horrible scene. Not horrible, it was just a long day. And I said, okay, how much am I paying y'all per hour? And they said, you know what, we would never ask you to pay us. They were like, Ma, it's okay.
You got some nice kids.
I know I do.
Wow.
Because I was waiting. I was like, I knew iPhone. I thought they was going to hit me with all kinds of things.
Wow.
They said they love me.
Really? That's it?
I raised them well.
You did?
Wisdom,
Can you write a book? Because my kids are always asking me for money. And they're not even on reality TV.
Well, I don't want you to be, let's get it clear. They asked me for money, but they didn't want it to be like quid pro quo. They didn't want it to be because we're doing this for you.
Okay. All right. So you did, and they're doing well.
They're doing fantastic.
They're doing fantastic.
Yeah,
all
so
right.
they're all in college.
Okay.
And they're thriving.
One's
at Hampton.
I was going to say, one is following in your footsteps at Hampton, the Mighty Pirates.
Yes.
The Mighty Pirates. Who, by the way, Jackson State.
Whatever.
Played
Whatever. And who cares? We're going to get y'all next time.
Next time. All right, so from reality TV, you're still doing that, but your podcast has been hugely successful. Reasonably Shady, you and Robin have been killing it on the podcast. Yes. Were you surprised?
I mean, I'm like, who knew? Y'all want to listen to me? Y'all want to listen to what I have to say? Surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
We went down the road. I had never heard a podcast. I had never listened to a podcast. I didn't know anything about podcasting. And so we really went down the road blind and was just like, you know what? We're just going to be ourselves. And if people listen, they listen. If they don't, they don't.
Right.
But apparently people are listening.
Yeah. Because what's the number up to now?
We are.
You just celebrated this milestone.
We just celebrated 10. Okay. By the way, Wisdom has a little cameo in the Real Housewives of Potomac. I meant to say that earlier. Yes, he does. Because he came to my party.
Right. It was a nice party too. You know how to do a party. You know how to do a party.
Thank you.
Yes.
So we're up to almost about 11 million.
Wow.
Downloads, which is it. I say it. Over 10 million downloads. Right. And every time I say it, I'm like, wow, that's a big deal.
It is a huge deal. Yeah. That's a lot of people that are listening to what you're saying when you do put out the podcast.
Yeah.
And you're talking about all kinds of topics, pop culture, everything. You're talking about everything.
Everything.
Is there anything that's off limits on the podcast?
Absolutely not. Oh, well, we cannot talk about Potomac.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, we can't talk about the Real Housewives of Potomac. Which in the beginning when we first started, Bravo was like, you can't talk about the show. We're going to save the show for the show. Right. And I was like, guess what, y'all? I don't want to talk about the show.
Okay.
I'm tired of talking about the show. So it's refreshing that there's so many other things that we can talk about. Right. And I'm not a one-trick pony. Right. I don't just talk about the show. I have other things that I have an opinion on.
Right. Like dating.
Yes. What about it, Wisdom?
How's your dating life going?
It's going.
You know I'm going to be messy right now.
Of course, as you should. It's going, and I can't. Do people know that you are like the plug?
No, they don't know that. They do now.
Okay. So anyway, dating is good.
Okay.
I've been single for a very long time, and I appreciate my singledom.
Right.
Like I like the fact that I don't have to answer to anybody. I do things the way I want to do it.
Right.
But when I do want a companionship, it's nice that I have like people that I can call to date. Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. We're going to see him on the show at some point?
Mind your business. Mind your business.
All right. So anything else that we need to know about Giselle Bryant?
Jesus.
Any hobbies? I'm trying to get to the...
Let me tell you.
I'm digging.
Okay. So a good little hobby of mine these days, especially because the weather has been so nice. Right. I've been out bike riding.
Okay.
I want to join like a bike riding... Was it club?
Yeah, a bike riding club.
Nobody has allowed me to come in, but I let them know. We let them know right now. I want to join.
Okay.
That's it.
Bike riding. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you worried but when you get out in the public, people are, kind of
They do, but if I'm on a bike,
you can run away. You can ride away from them.
Yes.
Brilliant. See, that's why you're the president. Brilliant. All right, Giselle Bryant. Thank you very much for coming in and spilling the tea and always being so gracious. I appreciate you. When I do these conversations, I really listen for the line underneath the resume. Sasha's line was 4 words: feel the feels, then. The crowns, the titles are real. But what she actually gave us was a blueprint for losing well. 3 competitions before she won 1. A grandmother she lost 2 months after the biggest win of her life. And instead of pretending none of that hurt, she said, take the moment, feel it, then go back and ask what you can do better. She talked about staying 100% rooted in who you are when there are so many opinions being thrown your way. In a world that is mostly noise now, that's not a beauty tip, that's a survival skill. Know who you are, know why you're doing it, keep people in your corner, and then block out the rest. So here's your moment of wisdom. Whatever stage you're standing on, a runway, a reality show, a classroom, a comeback, the people who go furthest aren't the ones who never get knocked down. They're the ones who feel it honestly, get back up more prepared, and stay rooted in who they are. Feel the feels, then move on. I'm Wisdom Martin. We'll see you next time.